All right, hey everybody, welcome to Down Home Backyard Gardening. Now, if you're looking at this right here, you might think, man, this looks great. I mean, look at all the growth. But when you're dealing with root vegetables, too much is too much. So in this video, I want to show y'all how I thin out my root vegetables the proper way for the maximum yield. Let's do it. What am I talking about with this being too much? Well, what you want to do for your root vegetables, because they're going to grow under the ground, you want there to be plenty of spacing for your root vegetable, whether it's a beet, radishes, carrots, whatever the root vegetable is. You want it to have space to grow without being impeded by other vegetables. So the biggest thing to do is you need to come in and do what we all don't want to do. Because when you look at this, look how beautiful all that is. You don't want to come in here and start chopping everything down. But if you want to maximize your yield, even if that means you go from how this looks, where there's hundreds of these in here, down to one every X amount of inches, depending upon your root vegetable. Now, Chad, how does that maximize? Well, if you have, say, 30 in this one little area, but none of them grow to potential, did you really have 30? I'm gonna do, which I hate doing, but it's part of gardening, is I'm going to thin out these radishes so I could have, say, 20 good radishes per section that I have here, as opposed to 40 that are small and misshaped and just horrible. So thinning is important, especially for your root vegetables. What I do this time, and this is the first year that I'm going to actually do this, is I'm going to come in and I'm going to look at each one of these rows. And when there's clusters like that, right there, too many in one little area, or like that, look at that right there. There's just too many in there. I'm going to come in and I'm going to start thinning all of this out. You might be asking, well, why did you plant them all so close? Well, when you get 300 seeds in a pack, to me, I just want to grow and get as many starts going as possible and then come back in and thin out, as opposed to plant one seed and hope that one grows, or this seed and hope that one grows. I just planted a whole bunch in a row, in the rows, and knowing that I'm going to come through and thin this time, that's what I wanted to do and see how everything grew, and they're growing great. So now comes the part where you got to come in and thin, and this is how I'm going to do it. And let's be real, y'all, I don't want to do this, but I really feel doing this today will completely benefit this yield here in a couple months. So here we go. Okay, make sure you have a good pair of gardening shears. And what I'm looking for is things like this right here. I have 4 radishes growing in this one section. Now, you could go through and pick out which one of these heads looks the best, which is probably this one right here. And then I'm just going to clip these other 3. And we're going to leave that one right there to grow in that area. Right beside it, we can do the same thing. Take this one out and that one out. And leave that one. And now already in just that short amount of time, you can see the difference it's making right there. So because all of these are growing right next to that one, we're going to go ahead and give it a lot of space there. And then that's all we're doing, y'all. We're just thinning the herd, so to speak. We're just getting rid of all the extra. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do for the rest of this bed. And then I'm also going to show you the beets, because I'm going to do the same thing for the beets, which is over there behind me. So let's knock this out. So I'm about halfway done, and you can already see the difference. I mean, you can totally tell which side has been thinned and which side still needs to be thinned. There's no rhyme or reason why you take out one start versus another start. I'm just looking for the healthiest and the biggest stems And then the smaller ones, I'm just taking out. That's my way of doing, most people's way of choosing which ones to keep. But again, you choose what you want to choose and go with it. But once you cut it, that's it. You're done. So let me finish this up. We'll jump over to the beets, show you those real quick. And then y'all, we're done with this video. Thinning is very easy. There's not a lot to it, but it is very, very, very important. Okay, and just like that, we're done. This does get a little tedious. You got to take your time so you're not cutting the wrong plants. I know for a fact this is going to totally maximize what I'm going to get out of the ground once these are ready. That is done right there. And that looks really good. Nice and spaced out. And I'll probably still come through and thin as they continue growing. But that looks really good to start off with. Okay, now that the radishes are done, let's go over to the beets and let me show you what I got going on over here. Same principle. Again, you want to give your root vegetables plenty of room to grow. So these are all beets. Now, these don't look as good as those, but in about a week, I'm going to come through and do the exact same thing over here. And I'm going to thin these all out. As you can see, they're growing really close together, but I want the heads on these to get a lot bigger before I start really thinning. All right, everybody, so that's the video on thinning your root vegetables. There's not a lot to this, but I really feel it's very important to have done a video on this because I haven't seen any videos about thinning. And I know from my experience over the past couple years of not thinning, I know what happens when you don't thin. So I wanted to do a video on how I was going to thin out my root vegetables this year. When I do an update video to this one, I really feel that having thinned those radishes out the way I did and the way I'll thin out those beets will only truly be beneficial, 100%. So if y'all enjoyed this video, if you learned anything from it, if you know someone who's just getting into gardening and could totally benefit watching this video, do me a favor, share the video, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. I would appreciate all of you joining all of us on this journey of gardening together. As always, everyone, take care, God bless, continue to shine bright and harvest hard, and I will talk to y'all again really soon. Bye. Man, it's been a minute since I've been in front of the camera. Lord, what do I say? Whew, it's too early for all this. Just kidding.